The Self-Awareness Reset, a 7-day reset for seeing yourself clearly and changing how you relate. Before we begin, I want to be clear about what this reset is and what it is not. This is not a challenge. It's not a test, and it's not something you need to perform well. This is a reset you can move through slowly, one day at a time, or something you return to whenever life feels tense, reactive, or stuck. Nothing here requires perfection. Nothing here requires you to agree with every word. The purpose of this reset is simple: to help you see yourself more clearly without judgment and without rushing to defend or explain. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to diagnose yourself. You don't need to become someone else. You only need honesty and the willingness to pause long enough to notice what's true. If at any point you want to stop, reflect, or repeat a day, that's allowed. Growth does not happen on a schedule. Take a breath, and when you're ready, let's begin. Day 1. What self-awareness actually is. Most people believe they are self-aware, not because they've looked closely at themselves, but because they've never been required to. Self-awareness is often confused with intelligence, or confidence, or having strong opinions. But self-awareness is none of those things. Self-awareness is the ability to notice how your words, tone, energy, and behavior affect other people, even when that impact was not your intention. It's the ability to say, "I didn't mean it that way," and still be curious about how it landed. It's the ability to observe yourself without immediately defending, justifying, or explaining. This is harder than it sounds because most of us were taught to focus on intent, what we meant, what we tried to do, why we were justified. Self-awareness shifts the focus from intent to impact. That shift alone changes relationships. Today is not about judging yourself. It's about understanding what self-awareness actually requires so you're not measuring yourself by the wrong standard. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 6 seconds. Repeat this slowly 3 times. Let your shoulders drop as you breathe out. Ask yourself, how have I defined being self-aware in the past? When was the last time I adjusted my behavior after feedback? What feels uncomfortable about the idea of being reflected? Here's what I want you to do. Today, simply notice moments where you feel very sure you're right. No correcting, no judging, just awareness. That's enough for today. You don't need to reach a conclusion. You don't need to change anything yet. Awareness always comes before adjustment. Today was about seeing the definition clearly, so you stop measuring yourself by the wrong standard. Let this settle. Tomorrow, we'll talk about why self-awareness is most challenged, not when things are calm, but when discomfort shows up. When you're ready, come back for day 2. Day 2. Why self awareness is tested in discomfort. Self awareness rarely shows up when life is smooth. It shows up when something feels off, when someone disagrees with you, when feedback doesn't feel good, when you feel misunderstood or challenged. Those moments are uncomfortable for a reason. They activate the part of us that wants to protect our identity, our image, our sense of being a good or reasonable person. The instinct is to explain quickly, to defend, to clarify intent. But self awareness lives in the pause before those responses. Avoiding discomfort might protect your ego in the moment, but it blocks growth over time. Because whatever you refuse to examine will repeat. Discomfort is not the enemy of self awareness, it is the doorway. Inhale for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds. Repeat 4 times. Allow your breath to steady your body. Ask yourself, how do I usually respond when someone gives me feedback? Do I explain, withdraw, dismiss, or pause? What emotions come up when I feel misunderstood? Here's what I want you to do. Today, practice pausing before responding when someone feels uncomfortable. Even a few seconds is enough. You did enough today by noticing. Discomfort doesn't mean you're failing. It means something important is being revealed. There's nothing you need to resolve tonight. Just let your body rest from the need to explain or defend. Tomorrow, we'll look at certainty and why being sure of yourself can sometimes block clarity. Return for day 3 when you're ready. Day 3. Certainty is not the same as clarity. Certainty feels powerful. It sounds like confidence. It sounds like knowing yourself. It sounds like strength. But certainty often stops curiosity. When you are absolutely sure of your perspective, you stop asking questions. When you are convinced of your intent, you stop noticing impact. Self awareness does not require you to doubt everything. It asks you to remain open, open to learning something new about yourself, open to the possibility that there is more to see. Certainty protects you from feeling exposed. Curiosity invites growth. The goal is not to become unsure, it's to become teachable. Inhale slowly for 3 seconds. Exhale slowly for 7 seconds. Repeat 3 times. Long exhales help the body soften defensiveness. Ask yourself, where in my life do I feel most certain? How does certainty protect me? What might I miss when I don't stay curious? Here's what I want you to do today. Replace certainty with curiosity once. Ask a genuine question instead of explaining your position. You don't need to lose confidence to gain self awareness. Today was about loosening certainty just enough to allow curiosity back in. Sit with that. Tomorrow, we'll shift from individual moments to patterns and explore what repetition is trying to teach you. Join me for day 4. Day 4, seeing patterns instead of isolated moments. A lack of self awareness usually doesn't show up in one situation. It shows up in patterns, similar conflicts, similar misunderstandings, similar outcomes. Different people, same tension. Self awareness shifts the question from who is wrong to what keeps repeating. Patterns are not accusations, they are information. They show you where growth is being invited. Looking at patterns requires honesty and patience and the willingness to see yourself as part of the picture. Inhale for 4 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds. Repeat that 3 times. Allow your nervous system to settle. Ask yourself, what situations repeat in my relationships? What role might I play in those patterns? What do I usually avoid looking at? Here's what I want you to do today. Observe one repeating dynamic without assigning blame. Just notice what's familiar. Noticing patterns can feel tender. There's no need to rush to conclusions or place blame anywhere. Patterns are information, not accusations. Let what you noticed rest. Tomorrow, we'll talk about why reflection from others can feel so uncomfortable and what it's actually asking of you. Come back for day 5. Day 5. Why being reflected feels so hard. When someone reflects something back to you and it feels upsetting, it doesn't automatically mean they're attacking you. Often, it means they touched something unexamined. Self awareness does not require agreement, it requires presence. The instinct to defend is human, but defensiveness blocks learning. When you can stay present with reflection, even briefly, you create space for growth and repair. Place one hand on your chest. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly with a soft sigh. Repeat this 4 times. Ask yourself, what kinds of feedback trigger me most? What do I feel the urge to protect in those moments? What might I learn if I stayed open a little longer? Here's what I want you to do today. Listen fully once without preparing your response. Just listen. You weren't asked to agree with everything today, only to stay present a little longer than usual. That matters more than you think. Tonight, give yourself permission to not replay conversations or evaluate how you did. Tomorrow, we'll talk about self awareness as a daily practice, not a personality trait. Return for day 6 when you're ready. Day 6. Self awareness is a practice. Self awareness is not something you either have or don't have. It is a practice. It shows up in pauses, in reflection, in the willingness to adjust over time. Practicing self awareness doesn't make you smaller, it makes you steadier. It allows you to respond instead of react, to repair instead of withdraw, to grow instead of repeat. Inhale for 5 seconds. Exhale for 5 seconds. Repeat 5 times. Ask yourself, what would practicing self awareness look like for me daily? Where do I resist slowing down? What might change if I didn't rush my reactions? Here's what I want you to do today. Pause before reacting emotionally, even if only briefly. You don't need to master this. Practices aren't meant to be perfected. They're meant to be returned to. What you're building is steadiness, not self-criticism. Tomorrow is our final day. We'll talk about what it means to stay teachable and how this awareness continues beyond this reset. Come back for day 7. Day 7, becoming teachable. The most grounded people are not the most certain. They are the most teachable. Teachable people grow. They repair relationships. They evolve. Seeing yourself clearly is not a threat to who you are. It is an invitation to become more honest, more connected, and more mature. Self-awareness does not demand perfection. It asks willingness. Willingness to look, willingness to adjust, and willingness to grow. Breathe naturally for 1 full minute. No counting, just noticing. Ask yourself, where am I willing to keep growing? What kind of person do I want to be in relationships? What would being more teachable change in my life? Here's what I want you to do. This week, ask one trusted person, how do I come across when I'm stressed? Listen without defending. You've reached the end of this reset. That doesn't mean the work is finished. It means awareness has been opened. Self-awareness is not something you complete. It's something you return to again and again as your life changes. You may notice your reactions differently now, your patterns, your responses in relationships. There's no need to rush that awareness or judge what you see. This reset is here for you to revisit whenever you feel reactive, stuck, or disconnected from yourself. You don't need to move on from it. You can come back to it as many times as you need. Growth doesn't require force, it requires honesty, patience, and repetition. Take a breath and return to your life a little more aware and a little more open than before. If this reset helped you see yourself more clearly, the next step is learning how to live differently once you do. I created the Self Awareness Integration Reset just for that. It's available on Podia. The link is in the description.